Good day, fellow investors. We continue with our stock analysis weekend marathon HPQ, a contender. So we already analyzed HPQ. You have told to remind you to check HPQ when it drops to 26. It's 26 now. Can you make an update? Yes, as I said, I have to also make Adidas next week when we talk more about opportunities in Europe. Also, another comment here, HPQ would be for another buy for the YouTube portfolio. We'll discuss that at the end of the analysis. They do consistent buybacks. Always when you do suggestions, let us know the risks, reward, catalysts. And then, of course, the bias is there as our HPQ stock price purchase could be lower than Warren Buffett's. And Warren Buffett bought 104 million shares here when the stock price was 35 to 40 and the average closing price was 36 when he was buying, but now the stock price is much lower and thus we can buy HPQ at a 30% lower price than what Warren Buffett paid. The P ratio looks extremely low, but that was because of one-offs, COVID and everything here. And now the stock price is projecting fundamental deterioration in the future. But how much is the question? Let's see the business, what's going on with the business, and try to evaluate this from a long-term investing perspective and also from a long-term business perspective. Where will the business be in 10 years? Compare the price to the fundamentals and see whether it fits our YouTube portfolio. When it comes to highlights, of course, down. When everyone was at home, they were buying more of these computers, so that's a given, but still, they made earnings per share of $1 for the quarter, free cash flows 0.3 billion, and they returned a lot of money to shareholders through share repurchases and dividends. Then on their growth areas, they just make peripherals acquisition. They are focused on gaming, workforce, industrial graphics, 3D. A lot of things that go into the mix is not just printing. Actually, printing consumer is now lower. Notebooks still a big deal. This will inevitably get a hit likely in the next year or two, but that's a given and that's normal cycle in the business. When we look at this, there is significant gross debt. That's something that is an issue. Of course, they made an acquisition, but we are now at 11 billion of debt, and using that to do buybacks at a high stock price is something that I don't really like. I have to say that, but okay, that is in the past, and we have to look at the investment from the current investing perspective, not what has happened in the past. Cash flows, okay, quarterly cash flows have been down, but still they have been able to do a lot of repurchases. Again, they did more repurchasing when the stock price was higher, so not really timing that, but with management it's always difficult to time there, and the guidance going forward for the year, it is around $4 per share. Even for this year will likely be a little bit lower. If we go here times 4, that's around 2.3. So I'm saying the P ratio should be around 10. 2023, if we look at this, it is still very low also for this year, so still a good year, but should likely decline. But the free cash flow is there, and that's a free cash flow yield of 15%. Likely lower long term, 10% long term at these prices. And the key question is the business going to be there in 10 years? If we look at the business, okay, it's nothing spectacular, it's not an Apple, but 80% of people that are not Apple addicts buy these much cheaper and also functional things. The gross margin for the audio and video conferences is there, and if they can scale on that, it is a very, very interesting thing to have. And this is now already a fit for our portfolio. So from the 10 stocks, HPQ is definitely a contender because what I like about businesses. I like that buying them at a fair, cheap price, but I also like that in 10 years the business is likely to going to be bigger and better, which gives me less risk, a margin of safety, and I'm looking forward to following HPQ. So I will do a video when I get to 7-8 contenders. So we'll now analyze the 10 stocks this weekend. Off of that, we'll take a few contenders, and then off of that, we'll make one video where we'll select one of two to the YouTube portfolio so that we are even more selective when it comes to investing. And that's also a process of investing. You get your opportunities, turn more stones, and find the best investing opportunities out there. HPQ is certainly something interesting, so we'll dig deeper when we do the contender summary video. I'll see you in the next stock analysis.